Here's a question to ask yourself. Does grief or loss actually make us better people? That question was posed to me by my friend Jill McMahon, who joins us most Thursdays for a segment that we call Guns and Grief. And I have to be honest and say, for me, the answer is yes. I want to bring in Jill right now because I'm super curious why you posed this question. And for the record, I freaking love it. And for another thing, I'm going to put a poll up the entire time that we're on today, and people can feel free to click on that and vote. But why did you want to pose this question to us today?
I love the poll, by the way, buddy. Why I wanted to pose the question to you today, honestly, because I was listening to a great podcast from a colleague of mine whose name is Megan Reardon Jarvis. And she had this amazing individual who had lost his wife to a catastrophic accident in Africa about 8 years ago. It was an elephant accident, Matthew. Like,
you know what?
One of those
as soon as you said that, I thought elephant.
I'm sure you did.
Seriously.
But the story catches your attention. And I was listening to this resilient man say this amazing quote that got me. And it was, loss and grief can be a portal to transformation. Mm-hmm. It was one of those moments where I paused it and I, rewound it 15 seconds and I played it again and I paused it and I rewound it 15 seconds. And I said, I know that. And thank goodness for this podcast, that they've just put that out into the world. But I don't actually think that most people believe that to be true. And so I really thought it would be a great topic to unearth today together.
Yeah, what I thought about as soon as I saw, this come across my desk that you wanted to talk about this today was, I think about the three sort of catastrophic losses in my life. Losing my dad at the young age of 23, losing my mom just almost 2 years ago to the day, losing my best friend almost 2 years ago to the day, yeah. and really reflecting on it. And I sat with this question for a while this morning, and I thought, has that made me a better person? And unequivocally, yes. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of talk through with you a little bit, if you're open to it, is I do have this feeling in me that people who haven't had to go through grieving, a grieving process, or haven't suffered much loss, I don't want to take anything away from them, but it does feel to me like they haven't learned, like they haven't gotten the what's the word I'm looking for? They haven't gotten the full experience yet, because those things, while they suck, they do teach you so many things about yourself. In fact, the first book that I ever wrote, one of the lines in there is, there has never been a greater teacher in my life than death.
I love that. And you're spot on. And what you just mentioned, I hear a lot in my office.
I'll bet you do.
So I'm glad you brought it up again. You and I have not had this conversation prior. We like to take these to have a very genuine, organic conversation with one another when we're recording. But it is so often, and you see the blue couch behind me, buddy. Like everybody, the blue couch. You've been in my office for business meetings before. But I've had plenty of grievers sit on that blue couch and say to me that they feel isolated, alone, misunderstood, and like nobody gets it. And that expression right there is really just a feeling of, there are other people in my life that haven't experienced a catastrophic loss. And so they haven't evolved in the same way, or maybe they don't look at the world in the same lens that I do now. So what you just said is, you have had 3 really momentous losses in your life, 2 of them happening back to back. And I love that you could tell our audience that you are a different man today, and I know it to be true, than you were a year ago because of those losses. Now, if I were to tell you that day that you called me to tell me that your mom had passed away, you maybe wouldn't have been ready to receive it, right? You couldn't have known, you just knew at that time, a hole, pain, a void, something was missing For some others, Matthew, it's the should have, would have, could have's. And so to introduce to somebody that loss, and again, you and I have discussed this many, many times, my friend, loss is not just death. Loss is deciding to part from your career. And this goes for anybody. This is like going off of your map, going off of your script. It's deciding to leave your high school sweetheart because the future that you envision together is definitely not the future that you're going to have. It's losing a child. It can be death. It can be so many different things. But until we start looking at loss as transformative, as evolution, we won't be able to look inside and see that we are maybe better because of it. Pretty risky that I just said that phrase, that we could be better because of our loss. I can't say
I don't
that.
even think you need to put that face on. I know unequivocally anybody who's experienced loss and grief and these types of things. You said it in the paper that you sent me. That transition fosters growth.
Right.
Walking away from the radio and television career that I had for 28 years has made me a better person. Moving from city to city and town to town and state to state has made me a better person. I would love for you. Do you have a story? I mean, will you let us in Jill's world? I know that you're a therapist and you don't like to talk about yourself, but give me an example of something that you've lost that's made you a better person.
Wow. Okay, I can give you two.
Okay.
And we're going to go deep and we're going to go a little dark, in all honesty. Some of the people that have listened to us banter before know that I was the victim of a kidnapping when I was 6 years old. I was technically carjacking, but back in that day, that term didn't exist. My mom and I were picked up at a mall. We gave some very nice looking men a ride to their friend's house. They had a flat tire. Soon into the ride, a gun was held to my head and I was used as a pawn for my mother to drive to our banks and withdraw all of the money. Within that, what I will tell you that I lost at a very young age was a sense of safety. Right? A sense that I could trust the world at probably a developmental age when I needed to know 100% that I could trust the world the most, right? Because I hadn't been tainted yet. I hadn't been exposed to some of the things that many of us are exposed to in life. But I will say now that I am the person that I am today. And I'm going to be honest, Matthew, like I love myself. Like I doesn't sound very humble, but I am fortunate enough that I don't struggle with a lot of self-confidence. But I probably am the person today, and I probably don't struggle with self-confidence because I had that catastrophic event and or loss so early on in life. So what you just said a few minutes ago was brilliant. That sometimes it's hard to be the person who's grieving and transforming through their grief when other people around them have yet to experience the same type of catastrophic pain. Right? And what I tell most of my clients is, I really have a feeling we know loss is for certain. You and I discussed that last week, right? But I have a feeling that everybody is going to experience some type of trauma or catastrophic loss. We just don't know when. So for me, it happened when I was 6. For you, it happened when you were 21. But for some people that are in the younger generation, if they are surrounded by others that have yet to have that experience, if you're 30 years old and, my husband will say to me all the time, Jill, I am so fortunate. I am so fortunate because you come home with these stories and I can't relate. I've had a really charmed life, right? And so for others, when you're going through it, and most of the people that you come in contact have not experienced this level of hardship, it can feel like your loss has broken you. It can feel like you're shattered, like a part of you is gone, is different, may never come back. You'll never feel comfort again. But what you and I are discussing today is that we know the opposite to be true. Actually, I'm going to
So
say that that hardship makes you more resilient, right? I had to, for if we go back to my story, and even I'm going to assume the story of your father. So tell me if I get any of this wrong. But I think because we had those experiences earlier on in life, and at that era, sending your children to counseling was not a thing. You didn't do that back then, right? Maybe our supporting families didn't know how to best respond, so they did the best that they could. But we really had to rely on ourselves
mm,
to pull ourselves through. And for most, the idea of that would make them freeze in their tracks. But the reality is, we do come through and we don't give ourselves credit for the fight that we have fought and for how strong that we've come out on the other side and the ways that we've changed and how we look at the world differently. Now, maybe you take less things for granted. Now, maybe you don't return those phone calls or those texts that you really shouldn't have been returning in the first place. Now, you maybe align yourself with the people that are going to pull you up instead of steal your energy,
so I
right?
want to
You
pause really
Good.
quick, if you don't mind, because
Please.
what I hope people are hearing as they're listening to us is this is good news. This is good news for anybody that's in it right now, that's in the weeds right now, that one day this is going to turn out to be something that you go, wow, I don't love that it happened, but
Mhm.
I love what it's done for me. I love how it's shaped me. I love the person that it's turned me into. And I do want to keep you honest on here. You mentioned that you might recall two events, and you've just recalled the one. I don't know why the balloons went up there. But what was the other event? Or do you just want to leave it at that and kind of keep moving on?
Um, this one's a little shorter. I'll say in 2018, it was a particularly challenging year for me. I lost my first and only client to a drug overdose 4 hours after he got off of that blue couch. I lost a dear friend and neighbor of mine after he participated in my spin class, died of a cardiac issue. And months later, my
Mm.
father died. And it was a year of not being able to catch my breath. And I can tell you, I'm a completely different person now than I was in 2018 because of those losses and because of the work that I did and the tenacity and the will to get up every day. And all of those things feel so impossible when you're in it. But as you start to come full circle, as you just said, if you can look in your rearview mirror, those are the things that are actually empowering because you did that.
Okay. So the podcast is called Air Check Your Life. It's based on a simple framework that I've created from my old radio days where you take a look at your life and you say, number one, what's working? What am I getting right? What's working well? What am I doing well? Number two, what's okay, but I probably need to tweak it. And number three, what am I doing the best way to put this is like, what am I doing to get in my own way? So if you take that simple framework and you apply it to this conversation today, what are grievers getting right? What is somebody that's going through loss right now experiencing that they're getting right?
Validating their pain. First
Okay,
and
great
foremost,
one. Great
validate your
one.
pain. It's okay to validate your pain. Do not have guilt about it. You don't have to pretend like you're okay. You don't need to use the phrase fine. You don't need to muster it alone. Validate it and lean into it. That's what they're doing right.
What are they getting okay that they probably need to make an adjustment on? And I've got an answer for this one too, but I want to hear yours.
I'm going to say community.
That's exactly
Um,
what I was going to say.
Community. Great. So
Yeah.
tell me why your mind went right there.
Well, because I think when you lose people, there's this unbelievable tendency to, unless you talk to somebody who is almost at an identical circumstance to you, you feel like the world can't relate, or nobody can help you, or nobody can talk to you about it. And you and I have done several podcasts together. I've done more than 350 podcasts about a subject similar to this, and I can tell you that whether it's a veteran or it's a mom who loses a baby or a friend who goes through a buddy's overdose, everybody thinks that their pain is unique and nobody else can relate to it. And I have just simply found that that is the biggest bunch of bullshit on planet Earth. Like, we all can, yes, the characters' names and the circumstances might not be the identical thing, but loss is loss, grief is grief.
Right.
And when we allow community to come in and we don't push people away because they don't understand, and instead try to make an invitation to let them into our life, I have felt and experienced the benefit of that. So that's why I went to community as well.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I believe within healing, within community, there is real healing. If
Yeah.
you want to heal, you need to find your community. And it doesn't have to be with somebody that has shared the same loss, right? What
Right.
you were
Right.
just describing and debunking, thank you, is kind of that badge of honor that people wear after they experience a loss and they go, oh, yeah, but mine was different. But in
Right.
my situation, I had just spoken with the person 5 minutes before, and I probably should have said something different. You probably don't have that weight on your shoulders. We kind of do this comparison thing, right? So your community doesn't have to be a support group. Your community doesn't have to be another veteran. I mean, it could be, but if those things aren't comfortable to you, your community is just get yourself out of the house. Community equals connection. Connection equals healing, always across the board for all things.
Here's what
So
I'll
if you
say
need
right here, right at the bottom.
oh, I love it. Man, you were like
Trauma isn't a contest.
contest.
Yeah.
It is not a contest.
All
And
right.
I don't even
Third question.
I caught myself, buddy, because as I was just saying that, I was like, oh, well, I'm calling bullshit on myself because I was referencing something earlier about, my client was just on that couch 4 hours before he died. Well, what do you think that was about? Like I was adding an extra detail in my narrative that implies guilt, that I've added guilt to myself.
Mm,
Like that situation's worse, right? We all do it.
you're awesome. What are people that are, grieving or experiencing loss right now getting wrong?
Not acknowledging how strong they are. And I've been sitting on this one, buddy, for a long time because I'm going to
All
tell
right.
you in my
Let's wrap
field,
up with this. Go.
let's go. In my field, if you tell a griever that they are strong, you will always get pushback. Grief therapists don't want to use the term. We try to dance around it. And a griever will look at you and they will say, I hate it when people tell me how strong I am. I
Mm.
don't feel strong. I have no other choice. Those are the three responses. I hate it when somebody tells me I'm strong. I don't feel strong. I have no other choice. And I'm going to call bullshit on that because, yes, you do. You have a choice to curl up in a ball and die, but you're choosing not to. You're choosing not to. You are choosing to get up every day. You are choosing to feed the dogs every day. You are choosing to get your kids to school. You are choosing to show up to work to pay the bills. You do have a choice. You don't have to go to work. You can withdraw from the world. So give yourself credit for your incredible strength because when your battery is at zero, and you mentally couldn't care less about keeping yourself alive, you show up to keep other people alive. Yet you don't give yourself credit for that. That is amazing. It is enormous. And we do it over and over again. You have proven to yourself that you are capable. You have proven to yourself that you absolutely can. You are now probably more prepared in life because of your life's circumstances. And you are most definitely wiser than you ever were before. However, we won't acknowledge that for ourselves. And that is how we acknowledge that we have become better people because of our loss.
Jill's book is called Bulletproof. You'll find it right there on the screen. If you scan that QR code, it'll take you right to a spot where you can give her all your money right now and pick up a copy for yourself.
Wow.
It's a great book. It's very timely. I know that people who have experienced gun violence in any way, shape, or form will absolutely appreciate the fact that you have written it. It is always one of my favorite days of the week when you and I get together and talk about this. Thanks for being such a great person in my life, Jill, and appreciate you being on the podcast. I look forward to seeing you next time. All right. Thanks again to everybody who watched today. Don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss an episode when it comes out. And don't forget to keep using that simple framework for yourself in your life every day. What are you getting right? What's okay that you need to tweak? And what are you doing that's helping or really hurting you and getting in your own way? Too many people jump for the fix before they take a second to assess where they're at. And that is the meaning and the principle behind Air Check Your Life. Let's take a look first, and then we can decide where we need to go from there. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.